Today we're going to be doing these beautiful trees inspired by the color wheel. And whether you're using watercolor today or just markers, we're all going to start out the same way by using your Sharpie. And we are going to be making a silhouette tree with the black Sharpie. So in your sketchbook, we're going to start by making two hills, and this is where our tree is going to be standing on. So don't make the hill way up here or you won't have room for your whole tree. Make it about a third of the way up and slope it down. It could be wavy all the way down like a hill. Then you're going to start at the other side and make a curve line, but stop when you get to that first line. You're not going through it. Now, to start your silhouette tree, I know this looks like crazy, but I always start with the letter Y when I'm doing the trees, and then you're going to be making your branches off of it. Remember, your tree doesn't have to look exactly like mine. Trees are all different sizes, all different shapes. Some have a lot of branches, some don't have that many branches, but I always start out with the letter Y. So I'm going to start out with a big Y. And when you are doing your tree, and if you look at a real tree, the trunk or the bottom is wider, and then it goes up into the skinny points of the branches. So it's kind of like a triangle. I'm going to make this wider down here until it comes to a point. So like a triangle, you can start at the bottom, so go right next to that line, and as you go up and up and up, get closer and closer and closer to that line. And you can just fill this in with black. And do the same thing on the other side. And that way, it'll be wider at the bottom and skinny at the top. So start your line right close to that middle line. And as you go up and up and up, get closer and closer and closer to that line. Don't worry if you make a mistake. If you want that wider, you can just make it a little bit wider. Because remember, we're coloring this all in black anyway. Now that you have your Y, you can start making as many branches as you want coming off of these. So if you want branches coming out of the trunk, just make your line, and remember, start wide at the trunk and get closer and closer to your original line. So it looks like a really tall, skinny triangle, and fill that in. The skinnier branches coming off of it, you can just make curved lines coming off. And now you're just, if it's a really long line, remember the branches, even coming off of it, start out, they're really, really pointy and skinny at the top. And as they get closer to the trunk or the middle of the tree, they get a little bit bigger. So make it a little bit wider or bigger at the bottom. And then it comes to a point at the top. I'm going to speed this up. You can do really, really wide branches. You can do your branches however you want and however many you want. So here you are just making your tree and your branches and filling that in with the Sharpie. We are going to be using watercolor paint today, but if you do not have watercolor paint or you're not allowed to use watercolor paint, here are some alternatives that you can do while we're doing watercolor paint. You can still follow along. So get the secondary and primary colors of markers, crayons, colored pencils, anything that you have. And then when we're painting with yellow, you're just going to be using the yellow marker, and you can just do dots when we are painting. So follow along the video, and whenever I am switching a color, you are just making dots with your marker. Another alternative that you can do, if you have thicker paper like cardstock, or if you're in a sketchbook, you can use water and activate the washable markers to make it kind of look like watercolor paint. And to do that, you need a paper towel, some water, and a marker. So I'm going to demonstrate with red. Now, whenever we are using a color, you can color on top of the dry paper towel or napkin with the color we're using. And then kind of fold it up. You're going to dip this into the water. And this activates the color, and then you can just make splotches like this, and it looks nice and pretty. So those are two different ways that you can do this project besides using watercolor. So with watercolors, you always need to dip it into the water first, and we're going to use yellow first. And I always like to use yellow first because it's the lightest color, and this is when our water is nice and clear. You're going to dip it into the water and put some water into the yellow. Now, you're going to swirl your brush around to get all the yellow on there. And then we're going to be making dots or specks up at the top down to the middle. Now you use Sharpie, so you can go over your black lines and it will still shine through. So you're just making little dots, picking up your brush and putting it back down. So you're going to start with the primary colors, yellow first. When you are switching your color, remember, rinse your brush off totally, wipe it onto the paper towel to get all that extra color off of it, and then you can use your next color. So then use red, and the red will be down here, because remember, the secondary colors are going to go in between. So just do specks of red, all the way to the middle. And then we're going to do blue. That is the final primary color. Rinse, wash all the extra color off, and then you can use blue. So I use a lighter blue. You can use a darker blue if you want. And the blue is on this side. So now that we have the primary colors, we're gonna add in the secondaries. And you know where it goes if you look at the color wheel. So our color wheel is kind of like this. So what goes between the red and the yellow? It's orange. So that's what you're gonna put between the red and the yellow. And you can overlap it a little bit with the yellow. Now the purple is gonna go on both sides, or you can make a little tiny purple down here because that's in between the blue and the red. Also, if you have to test these out, some of the darker colors look the same. If you have to test it out to see which one is purple, you can always just put it onto the paper towel. So I'm gonna put the purple over here. And remember, you can mix it in with the color next to it because they blend really nicely together. Just gonna put a little bit of purple on both sides. Oh, that was the wrong color. And then the final color is what is between yellow and blue. That is green. To go in between. This is going to be your beautiful color wheel tree. Voila!